Not that I don't really want to, but
Yeah.
like I think we have to all work together.
Well, I know with the counselor position, I guess. Is it recording?
It's upside down. No matter what I do, it seems to be upside down.
Oh, weird.
Isn't that
I mean, you can
so
always
weird?
fix it in post. Here, if you want to lean it up against something.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
This one's weird. It's almost like nice that it's upside down.
Yeah, I mean that's okay. We can always fix it. But yeah, I guess with the counselor position, some of the things that I guess I want to be more actively involved in some of the meetings that are already happening so I can get a feel for it, because I've been part of some of the Zoom virtual meetings just to see how they run and to see how
they're so long.
2-3
hours.
It's ridiculous.
Is that necessary?
It's ridiculous.
Could we not like make it more fun and more efficient and like?
I know
I was telling Marcus, it's like, so supposedly the commitment is 41 meetings a year. You receive pre-reading on Thursday evening, and you have to have it read by the Tuesday, and meetings are on Tuesday. So like roughly every other Tuesday with some exceptions.
Yep.
And like the reading is like, you know, different zoning things and proposals. Very boring shit.
Yeah.
And it could be hundreds of pages.
Totally.
And I was telling Marcus that there's new apps like Speechify
that will translate it from text to speech.
What's the other one? Yeah, where it's like you can.
I've used them before.
Yeah. So it's basically you can like upload the document and it will tell it to you, and you can choose the speed and you can annotate it.
Totally.
So I was like, you know, even if you don't have the time to sit around and like focus on it, like if you're driving, you can listen to it. You can go for a hike, you can listen to it. You can like be driving and listen to it.
For sure.
Yeah, those guys also said that there are lots of people on council who actually don't do the reading and they just show up and try to like wing it, and you know that's not ideal.
No, definitely not. Especially when some of these decisions are making a real impact in Whistler. Like I know, there's been a few just around like housing and the environment and things that are making like a potentially big impact. Like I'm really concerned about the one on Northlands Boulevard and what's happening with it, because I had a meeting with two people who were two people from part of the project.
Oh, really? Is it just going forward as planned?
Well, get
like,
this.
They just like get like community input.
Oh yeah,
and,
community input.
And like I literally just was like unleashed the fury on them. I was like, if you're tearing down a freaking tennis club and you're building something, it better be employee housing.
That's what I said.
And I was like, anything else is
just ridiculous.
Like, what are you going to make more tourist accommodation?
We don't need it.
With no staff to take care of them.
We don't need it.
And I was like, and you don't really need to tear down the tennis courts. Just leave it there. Put staff accommodation.
Plot. There's a massive plot there, right next to the tennis courts.
Plenty of accommodation there for staff. And you can put a few tourist accommodations in there too to like help subsidize it if you need to, since you guys are selling this for $1 million a pop.
Right, but the majority should be for local housing, and that's what I said. That's what I told them. I said the majority of the housing should be for local, and I was like, in a perfect world, all of it would be. But I essentially said that because you know, one of them said, they're like, what about you know, the developer? They need to make money. I'm like, they'll make money. Like, you don't think they'll make money? Like, they're going to make money. It's just a rather like making a reasonable amount of money. I wish I knew his name. He had dark hair.
What about the developer?
I should have.
They need to make money.
You know, the one woman who was there, she was definitely nodding her head with what I was saying, because realistically, locals need access to not just housing, but like reliable housing. They need access to places where they don't need a car to get around. They can get to work.
Centrally located. I was like, you could put like 1,000 people there.
Right.
And then like I'm like,
they wouldn't need to use their car.
If they're already running a tennis facility where there's like tons of noise, I'm like, people are like working. If you didn't notice, like Whistler workers work a lot.
Yeah.
Like they're not like making all rowdy. Like,
No.
the rowdiness is not the workers. Like,
no. I know, it just blew my mind.
like, and you don't really need to tear down a tennis court and then
You don't.
build another one over it. Like,
It's
just
ridiculous.
that's so wasteful.
It's a waste. It's very wasteful.
I don't get it, but
I mean, I do get it in the sense that there's developers who want to make money, and if they are going to come there and develop, then they should be contributing to the community in a meaningful way. And if they're not, they don't belong here.
Yeah, I 100% agree. So I'm really glad that you shared that link where everybody could share their opinion. I felt that the survey was so long that it was almost prohibitive.
Yeah.
Like, I actually am really passionate and I really care about. I was like frustrated by the length of it.
It was.
And I was like, and I felt like it was very redundant.
It was leading in a lot of cases too.
And the only useful part was at the very end. I was like, nice try, part 1. Like, nice try, part 2. Okay, part 3 actually has employee rent restricted housing. Like, why is that number 3 at the very end when everyone already has tired of this?
I basically just reiterated my points throughout in different ways. Even in the sections that were talking about environmentalism, because, for instance, like, if people live there, they could essentially live car-free and walk to places. So, like, that would be a way to reduce impact over time. Like, that, the impact of that over time would be significantly greater than any other initiatives that they could implement.
Yeah. So, yeah, I 100% agree with you on that. Whistler overall, I think, okay, so we might as well talk about our project for our documentary. Yeah. So here's the thing is we're plotting a democracy, a secret democracy, where there's actual representation and voting.
On specific issues.
Yeah. And we have like a whole demographic who's not represented.
Yeah.
The working class is being systematically displaced
100%
by the real estate problem in our town. So basically what happens is they'll be renting a suite. The value of the real estate is rising, so the house that they live in sells and they're evicted because the people who can afford to buy that don't need tenants.
Nope.
So they're displaced. So you have a whole class of working class that's being displaced from Whistler with no place to live.
No alternative.
And there's no way to replace them. Other than through temporary foreign workers who have no voting rights. So therefore we have a real threat to democracy in Whistler, where it's all the working class are being pushed out and replaced by people that have no voting rights.
And the people that stay don't have that same power without that mass majority.
That's crazy. Yeah. So there's a lot going on. I realize you live in Squamish.
Oh no, I live here.
Oh no way.
Yeah,
I live here. Sounds good.
Forever.
No way. I thought you guys were commuting to Squamish.
No. When I stopped to see you that one time at the Squamish Farmers Market, it was because I was passing through to go to Vancouver.
And the other time, I thought you were on your way to Squamish.
No. I was on my way back from Whistler that time.
Oh,
I usually go to the city once or twice a month. So I just happened to be on that day. But
That's
no, I
awesome.
live here.
So you actually have stuck it out.
Oh yeah, no, I've lived here for over
crazy.
A decade. Yeah.
Where do you live?
So I'm I live actually pretty close by. I'm really lucky because my mom bought during the market slump. 2012. So she bought in 2012, and then we moved in, and people think oh, that must be nice to get a break on rent. And she's fair. It's fair rent, not egregious amounts that most landlords would charge here, but she's reasonable. It's definitely by no means cheap, but it's
Is it less than 30% of your income? Your household income?
No. I mean, it's around 30%.
Yeah. So anything in excess of that is technically considered unaffordable.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely borderline. It's
and
definitely borderline.
And then
Sometimes
anything
it is
in excess of like 40 to 50% is considered like extreme.
It's not that, but
housing problem.
Yeah, and a lot of people are in that boat.
One of the things that I noticed about a lot of the decisions that we made around housing is that they're based on data that's collected from a variety of sources: the census, the Whistler Life.
They do a survey through
an annual survey of Whistler Life, and then also the Whistler Housing Survey. Yeah. And I've been looking into the different methods of each of these surveys. Yeah. And what I've noticed is that for the most part, they actually survey homes and not renters.
Wow.
So
that's gonna
I feel like there's a lot of data that maybe hasn't been accounted for. The Whistler Life study, if I recall, and don't quote me on this, it consists of approximately 300, a total of like approximately 500 phone interviews, 300 of permanent residents,
right,
and 200 like non-residents, right. So that's how they get the Whistler Life data. Okay. The Whistler Housing study is physically mailed to approximately 8,000 residences in Whistler, and they received a roughly 16% return on it. Like, I want to say like 12 to 16%.
Because they're using mail. They're using
they received responses from roughly 1,300 residences, and the questions have to do with how is your home being used. So they're actually on the Whistler Housing Survey. Yeah. They're not asking workers, what is your housing situation? They're asking homeowners, how is your home being used? Is it your primary residence or secondary residence? Are you part of the workforce? Do you work for a company located outside of Whistler? Right. So I truly think that the needs and the situation of the actual renters has not been evaluated. The census is very similar in that it's mailed to physical addresses. So it is like a biennial survey.
But it should realistically be for renters, like there should be an even amount of like renters ownership and different types of subsets. It makes no sense.
It's crazy. Like I've been kind of like trying to like figure out the numbers, and like none of them actually add up.
And you know what really blows my mind is that with Whistler Housing Authority, I've been on the wait list for a really long time.
How long have you been on the wait list? And which one? Are you on the ownership or the rental
both.
wait list?
No way. Both.
And so what properties are you?
So the ones that have come up for me are like stuff in Cheakamus and Rainbow, and like I don't want to live in either of those neighborhoods.
Are you on the Beaver Flats?
No.
In Creekside?
No.
And when did you sign up?
So years ago.
Like
I've been on
2019?
Yeah, like probably 2018.
Yeah. I've been on
a long
since
time.
Like 2018.
Yeah, and like we're not really in a place to buy now. Like before we kind of were, and we're kind of thinking about it, but after the pandemic, like we're like not in a place to buy anymore. So we're like, okay, well it'd be nice to rent eventually. But it's very stressful because like eventually, Kev and I might want to start a family, and like I don't know if we can do that with the current housing situation, because I don't want to be worrying about housing if we're bringing someone into this world, So like, and I know so many other people like that who are having to make these very significant life-altering decisions, like there's a window and like miss that window and it's like not happening, And so I don't know, it's tough and it's scary. And even like WHA, they don't really take that into consideration, for instance, with like 2 bedrooms, if we're like thinking about doing that. So it's like you almost have to like bite the bullet, plan, like just do it and hope for the best. But that's scary in Whistler. And so with WHA, the thing that really gets me is that they don't calculate it based on 30% of your income, because I've looked at the calculations of like, you make this amount of income and you're paying this amount of rent, and it's not 30% or less.
It's weird because supposedly it changed this year to be that.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, like there's like different like brackets and
Right.
stuff.
There are. I know that
But
there are different brackets.
supposedly they made a big change in the last like couple of years.
Okay.
Where it is meant to be 30%.
I'll look a little closer next time
like,
I get the valuation, because when I looked at it, I was like, wait a second, why is it like 1,800? You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it makes no sense.
You bring up a really good point, which is because, like, how long have you been working in Whistler?
Over 10 years.
Yeah. And so you've been on the housing wait list for like a number of years.
Over 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and like, what are people supposed to do if they, you know, if we need them badly to come here for a job that's where they're needed badly? Are they just supposed to be without housing for several years?
I know people who have. I know people who have surfed couches, who have stayed at hostels, who have found temporary housing, who camped out on a farm in Pemberton and ultimately had to move away, like a small family, like to the dad, stepmom, and 2 young kids who they like shared. You know, they had them like every other week or whatever. They had to move to the island.
Oh, Danny?
Yeah, it was Danny.
He had to move.
Yeah.
Yeah, I talked to him because I was like, yo, like, we're trying to like make this happen. What's your status?
Yeah, they were homeless for a while.
And he's
for
just
months.
like, oh, we actually couldn't find housing.
No. It's really sad. And they're not the only people. I know other people who have been that boat. I know other people who have been pushed out of this town. Many over the years.
Everybody.
Right?
If you're not willing to be homeless, you get pushed out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think there's a real need for a recount.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I want to do is, like, recount everybody. Do a proper housing survey of people who don't have housing, who don't. You know what I'm saying?
Make sure there's proper representation. Like, because right now there isn't.
We don't even know how many people actually live in Whistler. Like, they're saying roughly 13,000.
It fluctuates. I feel like it's between 10 and 20.
And like with COVID, with all the people moving here from Vancouver that are just working from home, basically out competing the local workers on like what they can afford for rent.
Yep.
There's a lot of people living here now, like way more than what I think they think.
Yeah.
And then plus, since everybody's been pushed out to like Squamish and Pemberton, you want to fix the traffic situation. You want to fix the air pollution.
100%.
Like, don't push 10,000 workers to the nearby towns that are 45 minutes away.
Nope.
Like, they all have to commute to Whistler every day.
A huge environmental
Allow
impact.
them to be centrally located.
Yep.
You know, another thing I want to do is totally unrelated, but I want to make the buses free always.
They should be free.
And I'm like, just
buses
like
should
just
be free.
like, and I know like I might get some slack for this, but I'm just like, just increase the parking rate everywhere. Yeah. It's like if you make like 1 hour free parking in the places that matter, where people have to like dart in and do an errand, like your locals aren't gonna care about that. No. But like in the day lot, it's like lot 1. If you make that $20, okay, people aren't gonna bat an eye. You know,
no.
They're gonna like pay that if they're driving up from Vancouver
and maybe there could be like a locals rate too.
Yeah, like if you have to like drive from Emerald and you have to pick up kids after work or whatever, it's like you get your locals monthly rate, or you just freaking scan your QR code or punch in your license plate.
Exactly.
And it gives you 50% off. Like,
right?
I don't know, like something
There's
like that.
methods that you can
do.
There's
so many methods,
sure.
but just to like incentivize like transit.
Yes.
Because like I have to say, like making the bus free, so many people are riding it.
So many people. I've been riding
like
the bus.
I ride it more just because like who has $250?
I know the change. Yeah, for
it's like so awkward.
It is awkward.
And stressful. It's just like it works way better when it's free.
Yeah.
It's like, and people want to go.
Totally.
You know? So, yeah, so many possibilities. But back to the master plan. Yeah, I think that the younger generation needs to participate in democracy a bit more.
For sure.
They need representation. It's not just that they need to show up to vote, but they actually need people in the system who are in their age bracket, and in their socioeconomic bracket.
Yep.
You can't, democracy doesn't work when the only people in office are the elite.
Yes.
And it doesn't work when you push out the working class and replace them with people who have no voting rights.
No.
So I think it's like super important. It could be the last chance for Whistler because we have so many temporary farm workers now.
Yeah.
And no voting workers.
No.
So yeah.
I wanted to loop back to the meeting with Sue Maxwell and Jordan Sturdy. Has that happened yet?
Yeah, so I met with them. Marcus ended up having a work thing, so he couldn't come, but he was the one who actually knew them through Aware. But I went. Do you want me to be completely honest? I was super disappointed.
Oh.
It was like, but it was good. In a good way. It's like, I might as well know.
Yeah.
But basically, a lot of politicians are just a mouthpiece without any substance behind it.
100%.
And one of the things was they were kind of wondering, like, what was the main issue? And I'm like, I didn't even say this, but the mayor has been like, oh, the thing I lose the most sleep over was the bus strike. Well, I'm like, well, you obviously have no, like, finger on the pulse of the housing situation, because if you had any idea how bad it was, that would be the major thing keeping me up at night. Like,
I mean, don't get me wrong, the bus strike was really shitty, and it shouldn't have happened. But like, housing is
minor in
essential
comparison to the actual housing crisis.
Yeah.
So, and both of them obviously were like into the environment, and I'm like, okay, well, like they're all related. Like, fix housing, and you fix the environment. Like,
totally.
You don't have 10,000 people commuting.
No.
And like polluting because they're living in their cars with no washrooms and no garbage. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Speaking of garbage, I also think we need like better garbage services so that we don't like attract bears and kill the bears. But so Sue goes, well, what do you want to do? Pave the whole valley and turn it into Coquitlam? 100,000 people? Oh, you're not from Coquitlam, are you?
Wait, what?
And I was just like, I had absolutely no response. I was speechless.
What does that even mean?
I could not. I was like, it's not like you fix the housing situation. You choose between like fixing housing and Coquitlam. Like, there's so many solutions in between that are sustainable Whistler fixing other issues. Like,
wow.
And I was like, wow, so you were an actual counselor. Like, and that's what you think.
Wow.
Like, have you been brainwashed? I was just like...
But, that's coming from a person who clearly has stable housing, who probably owns their own home.
Both of them, every single person in Council owns a home. And all of their friends are homeowners. They don't deal with people in the rental market. So therefore, they have absolutely no idea, like, what the situation is. And I'm just like, that's why we really need new representation if we're going to fix these problems. It's crazy.
And we need, like, variance in who...
And I'm like, and even Jordan, I'm like, your wife is fucking, like, what is her name? Like, she is the executive manager, #1 person of Whistler. And I'm like, and you guys like have absolutely no clue about how bad the housing situation is. I'm like, I was just looking at them and I was just like, I feel like I was like talking to them and they're just like, why are you like making such a big deal about housing? I'm like, hello.
I don't think you understand. I don't think you understand how many people have left this town, how many people have been homeless,
Whistler
living in their cars,
is bleeding
living
to
on couches.
Death. Like, there is a massive fucking hole in Whistler that is sucking out every person of value that is actually sustaining the community. All of your doctors,
right?
Your medical services, your emergency services.
Doctors can't afford to fucking live
the
here.
people who basically make sure that the avalanche conditions are safe. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like 7 inbound avalanches on intermediate runs in a 48-hour period.
Oh my
like
God.
that is not a coincidence.
It's
That
not.
is staffing shortages. Shit
Exactly.
breaking down. Like, I don't know. So yeah, so so we need you. We need all of us. We need every single person. And it's just the beginning. I don't really know what else to say.
And in terms of when you spoke to Jordan and Sue, like, I'm really curious the power that counselors really have in these situations, like, and
So,
where exactly.
Just
we
you
can
know,
make
there's a
difference.
budget.
Okay.
$100 million a year.
Right.
Of budget.
Right.
With the municipality.
Yep.
And there's projects and there's overhead, like operations.
Yep.
And then there's also different ways that we can procure funding for the RMOW. There's like a few main sources. There's taxation.
Okay.
So there's like property taxes,
right.
and a lot of people are really upset about their property taxes increasing because their property value is increasing.
Right.
So people who aren't selling and like constantly like flipping real estate, they're just getting